The storm rolled in quicker than Jack expected. The skies had turned charcoal gray, and the distant rumble of thunder echoed across the flat land like a warning drum. Jack Walker, 36, was in his dusty old workshop fixing a rusty tractor axle when he heard the engine sputter outside. An unfamiliar car. That was rare out here. He wiped his hands on his jeans, pushed the creaky garage door open, and saw a sleek black SUV idling just off the gravel driveway. Smoke curled from the hood, and standing beside it, drenched in the cold spring rain, was a young woman in a black hoodie, head down, fiddling with her phone. Jack stepped out into the rain. "You okay, ma'am?" She flinched, startled. Then looked up. For a second, he just stood there. She had striking green eyes, high cheekbones, and something haunted behind her gaze. But her face, it felt familiar. Like he'd seen her before. "My car died," she said, her voice tight. "No signal either." "Well, you picked a good place to break down. Bring it into the barn. I'll take a look." He helped her push the SUV under the shelter of the workshop, where the rain thudded against the tin roof above like a wild drumbeat. She stayed quiet, watching him work, arms crossed tightly. "What's your name?" he asked while opening the hood. "Riley," she said after a pause. "Riley James." Jack raised an eyebrow. That name, it tickled something in the back of his mind. But he let it go. Jack Walker. "Welcome to the middle of nowhere." She smiled faintly. "I was hoping for the middle of nowhere. A place to breathe." Over the next hour, Jack worked silently while Riley stood in the corner, occasionally stealing glances around. Dusty tools, half-finished machines, a calendar stuck on April 2019. "You live here alone?" she finally asked. "Yeah. Just me and the cows. Must be quiet." Jack looked up. "Sometimes too quiet. But quiet isn't always bad." Riley nodded, but there was sadness in her eyes. Like she was running from something louder than noise. The revelation. As night crept in and rain turned to mist, Jack made tea and offered her an old flannel to dry off. She sat across the workbench from him, sipping in silence. Then, almost shyly, she said, "You don't recognize me, do you?" Jack blinked. "Should I?" She pulled down the hoodie. And there she was. Riley James. America's biggest pop sensation. Platinum records. Sold out stadiums. Billboard charts. Every teenager's idol, and every tabloid's obsession. Disappeared 6 months ago after a public breakdown during a live concert. Jack stared, stunned. "You're..." "Yeah. Damn." She laughed, genuinely, the first real laugh since she'd arrived. "I needed to disappear," she said. "The paparazzi, the pressure, the fake smiles. I drove until I ran out of road. And ended up here." Jack leaned back in his chair. "Well. I never cared much for Hollywood. But I can see why you'd want out. Most people would ask for a selfie right about now. I'd rather ask if you want dinner. There's chili on the stove." Riley looked at him for a long second, then smiled again. "You're not like most people, Jack. The beginning of something real." Over the next 2 days, the storm trapped Riley on Jack's farm. They talked. A lot. He told her about the droughts, the failing equipment, the debt he was buried in. She told him about the music industry, how she lost herself in the machine, and how nobody ever really saw her, just the brand. He played her a song he wrote once on an old acoustic guitar. She cried. She helped him feed the calves. He taught her how to ride a tractor. They sat on the porch under the stars, talking about regrets, fears, and everything in between. It was raw. It was real. And for Riley, it was the first time in years she felt human. The goodbye. On the third morning, the SUV was fixed. The rain had cleared. The roads were open. "I should go," she said softly, her fingers brushing the keys. Jack nodded, trying not to show the sting. "I'll probably be back in the tabloids in a week," she said. "Rumors, headlines, questions. You sure you're ready for that?" She shrugged. "Not even close." She turned to go, then hesitated. "I meant what I said," she whispered. "You're not like most people. You listened. You didn't want anything from me." Jack gave a small smile. "That's because I already got something." "What?" "A real memory." She paused. Then walked over, stood on her toes, and kissed him gently on the cheek. Back to the spotlight. But not alone. A month later, Jack was fixing his fence when a news van rolled past the dirt road for the first time ever. On every channel, Riley James was back. But something was different. In her first interview, sitting across from a popular talk show host in LA, she said. Jack sat on the porch swing with a coffee mug in hand, watching the Nebraska sunrise break through the fog. The cows had already begun their lazy morning moos. Life on the farm hadn't changed much. But Jack had. Ever since Riley left, the world felt both heavier and lighter. He missed her presence, the softness she brought to the silence, the laughter that once echoed through his old workshop, the shared moments under a sky scattered with stars. But he'd also started singing again. Writing songs again. Smiling, again. He didn't expect her to come back. So when the black SUV rolled back into his driveway 5 weeks later, he thought he was dreaming. Back on the farm. Riley stepped out, no hoodie, no sunglasses, no disguise. Just her. In jeans, boots, and a wide smile. "I brought coffee," she said, lifting a cardboard tray of lattes. Jack blinked. "You're back. You said the fence still needed fixing, right?" He didn't say anything. Just walked over, took the tray, and for the first time in his quiet life, hugged someone so tightly he forgot the weight of the world. A secret summer. Riley didn't announce her return. No paparazzi. No cryptic Instagram posts. Just peace. She stayed in Jack's guest room, an old storage room he'd cleared out for her, with a window overlooking the wheat field. Days turned into weeks. She helped around the farm, feeding animals, painting the barn door, and learning how to make cornbread from scratch. At night, she and Jack would sit on the porch or by the fire pit, and talk. Sometimes she asked him about faith. Sometimes he asked her about fear. And sometimes, they didn't say anything at all. Just let the silence speak between them. The world starts watching. But peace, like all rare things, is fragile. One morning, Riley's phone buzzed nonstop. She frowned and checked the screen, then groaned. "What is it?" Jack asked, drying his hands on a dish towel. She turned the phone around. It was a photo. Them. Together. On the porch. A grainy, zoomed-in paparazzi shot taken from a drone, already going viral on Twitter. Pop Princess Riley James spotted on remote farm in Nebraska, love on the horizon. Jack sighed. So it begins. The storm returns. Within 24 hours, the road outside Jack's farm was filled with media vans, flashing cameras, and shouted questions. "Riley, are you quitting music? Are you two dating? Who is this farmer? Is it serious? Is this a publicity stunt?" She didn't flinch. She took Jack's hand, stood in front of his porch, and looked directly at the cameras. "I came here because I was broken. I stayed because I healed. And I fell in love, not with a man from the magazines, but with one from the soil." And then she did the unthinkable. She turned her phone off. Deleted every app. and didn't post a single thing for the next 2 weeks. The silence made headlines. Jack's breaking point. Jack, on the other hand, wasn't used to the chaos. Reporters camped at the edge of his land. Drones flew overhead. Tourists began showing up, asking for selfies. His livestock got spooked. His crops were being trampled. And though Riley tried to protect him from it all, Jack couldn't help but feel small. One night, after the crowd finally cleared out, he sat on the porch, distant, quiet. "You okay?" she asked, sitting beside him. He looked away. "I'm just a farmer, Riley. You deserve more." "More than what?" "More than this. More than me." Her jaw clenched. "Don't say that. You can have anyone you want. Go anywhere you want. You're a star. I'm just the guy who fixes fences." She stood up, eyes blazing. "You think I care about stadiums? Flashing lights? I've had all that, Jack. I've stood in front of 40,000 people and felt more alone than I ever did in your garage." He didn't respond. "I didn't fall for your hands, Jack. I fell for your heart. And if you can't see that," she paused, her voice trembling. "Then maybe I should go." She left him there. In the dark. With his own doubts. The song that changed everything. 2 weeks passed. Riley returned to New York to handle press, obligations, and the album she had been avoiding for months. Jack stayed on the farm, burying himself in work. One morning, he turned on the radio while fixing his tractor. And he froze. Her voice filled the barn. A stripped-down acoustic song. Raw, painful, personal. It wasn't auto-tuned. It wasn't flashy. It was real. The lyrics. "You found me in the quiet / when all I knew was noise. You saw me in the silence / not the fame, not the poise. And I'd trade the stage and gold and lights for the fireflies in Nebraska nights." He sat on the floor. And cried. Back for good. The next evening, a pickup truck rolled into the driveway. Not an SUV. Her. In his old truck. Wearing his flannel. She stepped out and tossed him a bag of sunflower seeds. "Thought your porch needed sweeping," she smiled. He didn't say anything. Just kissed her, like he should have done the night she left. A new chapter. A year later, the farm looked different. The barn had been painted bright red. A small recording studio was built near the field. Riley released an album, titled Dust and Hope, recorded entirely in Jack's garage. It broke records. But this time, she didn't leave. They hosted music workshops for small-town kids. Started a sustainable farming initiative. Jack was featured in Rolling Stone magazine, awkwardly holding a pitchfork. The world kept spinning. But for once, Riley and Jack found something that neither fame nor failure could take away.